Water quality is a challenge across Nebraska, but in the Republican Basin, water quantity is the big concern. I'm Steve White, visiting now with Todd Siel of the Lower Republican Natural Resources District, who tells us they take a basin-wide approach working across multiple NRDs.
Republican River Compact, it was put into place in 1943. And that has governed water management as far as quantity across the basin with Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas. And there's been several lawsuits over the years in regards to that compact. In these I'll call it this past decade, things have gone very well. There's still the cycle of dry and wet when it comes to precipitation. And then reservoirs tend to not get to their 100% pool level, and that's what causes issues. But it was established that groundwater and surface water are hydrologically connected. So in our basin, in the three main NRDs that are in the Republican River Basin, which is lower, middle, and upper Republican, we all have allocations. In other words, restrictions on water pumping. Besides that, there's also when water levels do get so low that the state of Kansas has the ability, if it's called a compact call year, the compact being the compact I mentioned earlier, they can call for water. And ever since 2016, a real key to that is what storage is in Harlan County Lake. And if there's an adequate amount of storage for Kansas Bostwick in particular, we've met that target, and then there needs to be no further actions taken at that point. We've been very wet in the basin, 2019, obviously, that most people remember that no actions had needed to be taken until this year. And now in 2026, we're having to take some of those actions to provide compliance to that compact.
When you say take some actions, what does that look like? What does that mean?
There's several, the greatest of which is our biggest project called the InCorp project out south of North Platte. There's actually 4 NRDs involved with that, the 3 I'd already mentioned, but Twin Platte NRD is also involved. They're one of the 4 owners. And so there's a pipeline from a well field that goes both to the south into Medicine Creek, which is in the Republican Basin, and a pipeline that goes to the north into the Platte Basin for their obligations, for their joint management plan with the state of Nebraska, with DWEE. Coming to the south, it ultimately provides the volume of water that gets down, goes through Medicine Creek Dam, and then is released from there to make it down to Harlan County Lake. And the quantity, again, for it's been 8.5 years since we've had to take any actions. But now this year we are pumping out at InCorp this winter. And fortunately, it's not going to be an overwhelming amount. We're looking at, maybe 5,000 acre feet. Sure. It's going to be a little bit more than that by the time we get to spring, possibly, but not much. Other actions, there's other augmentation projects out there. Upper Republican has one on their own, which is called Rock Creek, the Rock Creek Augmentation Project. And there's surface water diversions. Middle Republican has, in particular, that is also used in regards to compliance. Back when our allocations were put into place, that was the initial answer. That was before our InCorp project existed.
I was at a meeting last year where they were implementing allocations, and a lot of times there's gnashing of teeth and saying, well, how dare you, we can't do this. But they were reminding folks, most years, this isn't even going to be an issue. And then we also have to remember with new technology, we're able to manage that water resource as producers a lot better than we used to, right?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that, Steve, because I will not name names, but I've had a large number of guys, both that I know and that I'd never met before, discuss how before allocations were placed, at least in our district, they were using sometimes 20, 30, 35 acre inches a year. Our allocation is 9. The base allocation is 9. In a compact call year, you're restricted to no more than 13 acre inches before penalties would come into play. And so many guys have come in and said, I was one of those that fought that in the beginning, but now it's the best thing that ever happened to us because it's made us manage better and it's actually made us more money. I grew up irrigating and with my family in the 1970s and 80s, and we turned the pumps on and water ran down the row and made its way into the river, which helped river flow actually. But if it wasn't raining, we were irrigating is what the attitude seemed like. And we didn't measure at all what we were putting on. But we do know in some cases where we did have some flow meters that it was a large amount of water that was being put down the row.
Again, we've been visiting with Todd Siel of the Lower Republican NRD. I'm Steve White.